Hello, my name is Dr. Sam Hai. I'm an internal medicine doctor. Thank you so much for watching. In this video, I will be talking about 7 ways to beat boredom on carnivore without adding back carbs. Quick plug before we begin. My new coaching program, the 90-day Carnivore Blueprint, is now available. If you're a beginner or have done carnivore but struggled, I created a complete 90-day step-by-step course, weekly calls with me, and a community of like-minded people to hold you accountable and help you transform your health and your life. Click the link in the description below for more details. Okay, let's get started. Let's talk about one of the sneakiest reasons people quit carnivore. And that's boredom. Not diarrhea, not the cost of meat, not even cravings. Boredom. Today, I am going to give you 7 ways to beat boredom on carnivore without adding a single carb back into your life. Because let's be real, the second you start adding just a little variety, you're halfway back in the food matrix. Let's keep you free, one steak at a time. All right, let's get started. All right, guys, let's get started. 7 ways to beat boredom on carnivore without adding carbs back. Stay consistent, stay free, and never look at steak the same way again. Let me see if I can turn this into a slideshow. And yes, I can do it. That's how slow I am with technology. Sorry, guys. I'm just not as tech savvy as other YouTubers. And I can't quite move my head out of the way. But that's okay. You guys can see that. All right. Okay. So I'm going to give you 7 strategies to beat boredom on carnivore without going off carnivore. Why boredom is dangerous? Is that a rhetorical question? Boredom is dangerous because when you're bored, you start doing stupid things. Boredom equals one of the top reasons people quit carnivore. They're thinking to themselves, beef again, ground beef again. I'm tired of this. Ribeye again. I'm tired of this. This is a real problem. And that's what we're gonna address in this presentation. Boredom leads to cravings, cheat days, and full relapses. Here's the key truth. Variety is not a requirement for health. It's a craving habit from the standard American diet. Most of us come from a standard American diet or some version of it. And it preaches moderation, it preaches balance, eat the rainbow. And so we always try to seek variety, different types of foods. But here's the thing, variety is not a requirement for food. And in most cases, when you seek variety, it's detrimental to your health. And that's all because of the standard American diet. Variety in the modern food system today means that you are eating foods that are highly palatable, processed, designed by nutrition scientists to get you addicted and hooked. It plays with your dopamine pathways. And that's not where you want to go. Carnivore success equals simplicity plus satisfaction, not entertainment. That's what carnivore success is. It's simple. It's not eating for pleasure. It's not eating for entertainment. It's eating for nourishment. All right. Strategy number 1, rotate cooking methods. This is how you do it. Pan-sear, grill, slow cook, air fry. So if you take a ribeye, for example, if you pan-sear it, it's going to taste a certain way. But if you grill it, that's like you're having a different piece of meat, isn't it? Or if you slow cook it, again, that's a different piece of meat. So this is how you can introduce variety within carnivore. You cook it differently. Change texture and flavor without changing food. That's what you're doing when you're using different cooking methods. You're changing the texture and the flavor. And that makes the palate happy. And that also keeps you healthy and nourished. Here are some examples besides the ribeye example I just gave you. Chuck roast slow cooked versus pan fried. Chuck roast is very thick, and that's why the preferred method is slow cooking. But you could slice it up very thin and you can pan fry that. And in fact, I've done it. Chuck roast, thinly sliced and pan fried is delicious. It's the same cut of meat, but you're cooking it differently. That gives you variety without going off carnivore. And it gives you a completely different experience. Here's a pro tip. Salt after cooking for a fresh flavor pop. Usually people will salt their foods while they're cooking, while the meat is being cooked. It gets salted. But if you finish cooking that meat, plate it, and then you add salt, that will give you a fresh flavor pop. So that's a pro tip. Okay, let's go on to strategy number 2. Master 3 to 4 default meals. What does that mean? Have 3 to 4 meals that you're going to eat all the time. This way, you're not thinking so much. You're not deciding all the time. And this helps with your mental battery. Have a go-to rotation so you never think, what should I eat? That's usually a sign that something terrible is going to go wrong when you ask the question, what should I eat, right? No one knows what they want to eat. So we keep on asking questions. What should I eat? What do you want to eat? What do you feel like eating? That's trouble. Master 3 to 4 default meals. So what are your go-tos? Maybe it's ribeye plus butter. Maybe it's ground beef patties plus cheese. That's if you tolerate cheese. Pork belly strips, eggs and bacon. The less you have to decide, the less you're going to make mistakes. Less decision fatigue equals more success. All right. Strategy number 3. Use different fat sources. Change the flavor profile by swapping fats. Beef tallow, butter, ghee, bacon grease. When you cook eggs in butter, that tastes one way, which is delicious. But if you add bacon grease, that tastes a different way, which is also delicious. But that varies the flavor of what you're cooking. So change and swap fats because that will give you variety. And it's as if you're eating something different, but in fact, you're eating the same thing. Fat carries flavor. It's a flavor carrier. And that's why it seems like you're eating something different. It's a different flavor. It's a different taste. Rotated and the same cut of meat feels brand new. So that's strategy number 3. Use different fat sources. Strategy number 4. Play with salt and seasoning. Use different salt types for subtle changes. Redmond's real salt, Himalayan pink, flake sea salt. I love using Redmond's real salt. This is a very fine salt and it's very salty. You can really taste the salt. I believe it's mined in Utah. A salt mine in Utah is where they gather this Redmond's real salt. Whereas Himalayan pink salt is rockier. It's a rockier salt. And so that's a different, even though it's salt, it's a different flavor. It's a different texture. That will give you variety. Flaky or flake sea salt has a crunchy texture. And again, it's still salt, but that will give you a different eating experience. Here's optional if tolerated. Black pepper, smoked paprika. Obviously, if you're having symptoms, if you're having gut issues, then don't use black pepper. Don't use smoked paprika. These are coming from plants. But if you tolerate it, then okay, you can use that to give you a little variety. That's if you don't have any symptoms. Avoid seasoning blends. There are hidden carbs and MSG that can sneak in. Read the labels. They're very sneaky about things that are added to the ingredient list that may seem harmless, or it's labeled salt, or it's labeled seasoned salt. Be careful with that. If anything is labeled with the word seasoned in it, then you have to read the labels very carefully. Strategy number 5, batch cook and rest the brain. Again, here, when you batch cook, you are going to give yourself more mental capacity, more freedom to make good decisions, and you're less likely to make bad decisions about eating. Boredom often comes from overthinking food. You think a lot. You think, what should I eat? What should I make? And usually nothing good comes from that. You're bored, and that leads to overthinking about food. Batch cook 2 to 3 pounds of meat so meals are grab and go. When you batch cook, you have meat ready to go. You have meat in the fridge. You can just reheat it, and then you can eat. So this takes care of a lot of problems associated with boredom when you batch cook. Less cooking stress equals less mental fatigue, and that equals less temptation to change the menu. Try this strategy. This really helps out with boredom, because you will be bored. But again, boredom is not a bad thing. Boredom on carnivore means that you are healing. You are healing from the modern food matrix. The modern food matrix is designed to keep you addicted to highly processed foods. And once you feel bored on carnivore, that's a good sign. And this will happen anywhere from weeks 3, 4 to 3, 4 months. You're going to feel bored. And that means your brain is clearing out. That's a good sign. Here's strategy number 6 to deal with boredom on carnivore. Vary cuts, not foods. Same animal, but you get a different experience. So here we're talking beef, ribeye versus New York strip. Same animal, but obviously a ribeye tastes different than a New York strip. You're getting a different experience. Brisket versus short ribs. Again, different cuts. You're same animal, but you're going to have a different experience. Chicken thighs versus wings. Same animal, the chicken, but different cuts. A thigh obviously tastes different than a wing. So this is another strategy you can use to help you deal with boredom on carnivore. Keep nutrient density without introducing inflammation. Basically, you're eating the same animal, just a different cut. You're getting the same nutrition, same nutrient density, but you're not reintroducing inflammation from adding carbs or going back to a standard diet. Strategy number 7, reframe boredom as freedom. In the standard diet, variety kept you trapped in cravings. Carnivore boredom equals you've broken the dopamine cycle. So I talked about this a little earlier. It's a good sign that you're bored on carnivore. That means you have broken free from the modern food matrix. You are no longer addicted and hooked to these processed foods. You're no longer getting that dopamine spike. And so you're going to feel bored. That's a good sign. You want to feel bored. If you come from a standard diet, you go carnivore, and after 2, 3, 4 weeks, you don't have any boredom, then something's wrong. Because a carnivore diet will not light up your brain like a standard diet will. A standard diet will light up your brain like cocaine. And we don't want to be on cocaine. We don't want to be on a standard diet. So you're going to be bored. This means you've broken the dopamine cycle. This is what food freedom feels like. No addiction, no obsession. And here's the great thing. You're going to feel bored, but eventually there will come a time, whether that's in weeks or months, where you feel peace. You're going to feel very peaceful. and happy that you're on carnivore, because you don't have addiction, you don't have obsession. And I've experienced this because I've dealt with a very serious carb addiction. And on carnivore, during the first year, I was dealing with binge restrict cycles. And what that means is that even though I was carnivore for many months, I still felt like I wanted to continue binging on food, and that food was meat on carnivore. That was just a psychological thing that I had to go through. And when I binged on meat, when I was eating extra beef, extra eggs on carnivore, because that's what I do on a standard diet. It's a psychological behavior that carried over on carnivore. I continue eating this way on carnivore. And then what I would do afterwards is that I would feel guilty. Like, why am I eating 10, 12 eggs and 10 strips of bacon, even though I'm full? I'm binging. What is going on? And so what I would do is, after I did that for a couple days, I would restrict myself and I would go on a fasting, not necessarily a binge, but I would just eat maybe one meal a day and I would restrict the portions. But that's not how you do carnivore. This took time for me to heal. This took me roughly a year on carnivore before I stopped having these issues. And it was as if overnight, this binge restrict cycle that I went through just disappeared, because I no longer had addiction. I no longer had obsession over food. So it took me roughly a year to get over this very serious carb addiction on carnivore that I've dealt with for most of my life. And for many people, it will take more than a couple weeks. It may take more than a couple months. For me, it took about a year. How long it'll take you just depends on what your history is. But this is what food freedom feels like. No addiction, no obsession. It's peace. Embrace it. It's a sign you're winning. So there you have it. The 7 strategies you can use to deal with boredom on carnivore. I know these strategies will be helpful for many of you. Rewatch this if you need a refresher. Come back to this presentation, because you will come across boredom and you will be tempted to go back to carbs. And you don't want to do that. Here's the final takeaway. Boredom is a sign of progress, not a problem. I've talked about this before. When you feel bored, say thank you. This is where I want to be. But you keep on going with carnivore, and eventually this fades. The boredom fades. But in the meantime, you can use the strategies we talked about in this presentation to help you move forward. Stop chasing entertainment from food. Keep meals simple, satisfying, and consistent. The goal is nourishment, not novelty. Here's a call to action. Stay in the fight. Your body and brain are rewiring. All right. So a quick plug. Join my 90-day carnivore blueprint. If you want to crush boredom, cravings, and inconsistency, community support plus proven system plus mindset mastery, I create this new course inside my school community. There will be links in the description. Join if you need help. Join if you need support. Join if you need accountability. There will be weekly coaching calls with me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. I love you guys. I really do. I say that every time. And there is always one person who say, no, you don't love us. I do. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next video.